I be wrong if I didn't get my sister a wedding gift? Okay, so I, 25 male, am a wedding planner. So when my sister, 32 female, announced that she was getting married, most of her family, including her, assumed I'd help her plan it. I initially didn't really want to, as her wedding is right in the middle of busy season. So I'd miss out on gigs that would pay. But then I decided that she's my sister and this would be a really good wedding gift and would just help with the wedding stress. She was so happy when I agreed and we started going over her plans and themes. I found some venues and we went to look them up. I took care of all of the catering, so all she had to do was taste test and pick. I was also able to use my connections to get her special deals and stuff like that. At first, it was pretty smooth, but as time went on, it got more and more stressful. She wouldn't communicate with anyone and almost got her photographer to quit. I had to convince him to stay. She'd constantly change her mind on things and then get mad if they were changed, as if I should have known that she was being indecisive and I should have stuck with the first option. While I was setting up the registry, she told me I could have first dibs on what gift I was getting her. I looked at her confused and said that my help planning was my gift. Then said a lot of family helped out and are still getting gifts. I told her other family members helped move furniture or lend me their car to pick up supplies. I was doing most of the work and I was missing out on actually getting paid to help her. She said she's grateful for my help, but this wasn't really constituted as a gift unless I was paying for things like her dress or the venue. And she said it didn't matter when I brought up that my connections have literally saved her thousands when you add them up. She's now calling me cheap and is getting our family involved. I don't know what she told them. They won't tell me. But they keep saying how selfish I am to make my sister's big day all about me. If I can't afford it, I wouldn't mind getting her something. But the cheapest thing on her registry is almost $200, and I'm not well off. Plus, my loss of income, I can't afford something like that right now. Date. I put together a list of everything I had done, including all of the discounts I had gotten for her. I'm not sure she knew they were discounts, as I didn't say they were. Then texted her to ask if we could get some lunch and talk. When she arrived, I showed her the list and explained that I'm not asking her to pay, but I wanted her to see how much I was helping her and how much money I am losing by doing her wedding instead of taking on a client who would pay. At first, she was shocked at the amount and accused me of lying to try to make her feel bad. I was able to show her bills from other weddings I had done before. She had never looked up any wedding planners or their rates because she always assumed I was gonna do it. She didn't think it was that much, as I didn't seem to be well off. I told her that while it does pay well, I can't take on crazy amount of clients since I need to give quality service. She said I must have some money saved up. I said I do, but that I would be having to use that to cover my bills since my income is taking a hit while I'm taking her wedding. After a while of insisting that some items on her registry aren't that expensive, she relented and said I wouldn't have to get her anything. She paid for my part of the lunch as an apology, and since I'm struggling and things are all good now. Thanks, everyone.
Story time about how my friends made everyone hate me. So a little background information. I was 15 and in 9th grade. And we're going to call my best friend Charlene. Her and I were best friends from 6th grade all the way up till freshman year. Well, when we got into high school, she caught feelings for this sophomore who we're going to call Ben. And when I say she caught feelings for this boy, she was like in love with him. Personally, I didn't like anybody. I just got out of a toxic relationship. So boys were like the last thing on my mind. Well, instead of Ben trying to pursue things with her, he would always try to flirt with me instead. And I would never go along with it because duh, girl code. Well, instead of talking to Ben about this, she would run to all of her other friends and call me a slut. For me, quote, letting him flirt with me. Like, girl, I can't control him. The most I can tell him to do is stop. Anyway, so the one day we were waiting for the bus to go home, and all of a sudden Ben comes up behind me and gives me a hug and a kiss. On the cheek, of course, but still. So I push him off of me because, ew. Well, Charlene laughs it off like everything's fine, like for part 2 about how my friends made everyone hate me. So like I said, Ben comes up behind me, give me a hug and a kiss, and I say, ew, push him off of me, and then Charlene laughs it off like everything's fine. But then the next day at school, people are telling me about how she was telling everybody that I would force him to kiss me and hang out with me. And of course, everybody believed her, and no one believed me. Which I'm not gonna lie, I feel like in high school, whenever there's a rumor starting, unless you tell your side of the story first, no one's gonna believe you. Well, thankfully, he ended up explaining the whole situation to everybody. So once those rumors were laid to rest, she started new rumors that she was going to fight me after school. And I was tired of putting up with the shit, so I ended up beating her ass. And now I'm a senior in high school. And thankfully have found amazing supportive friends. As for Charlene, I haven't heard anything about her since, and I would like to keep it that way. Because why would you let a boy get in the middle of our friendship?
You want to know who has genuinely changed the dating? So sorry, I just hate when I mispronounce words. The dating game for me, who's genuinely changed it for me. My best friend's boyfriend. The reason why is because now I get an inside look in the male's brain of like the dating world. Let's call him Justin. I'll be like, Justin, tell me if I'm fucking crazy right now. Like, tell me if I'm fucking crazy. And he'll be like, yeah, you're fucking crazy. Or he'll be like, no, like that is crazy of that guy to do that. Also, he gives me the best fucking advice because he's a straight man and he's on, like, he wants to see me win. boyfriend. He doesn't give a fuck about these guys. So he's gonna be brutally honest with me. There have been like several times where I was like, Justin, like this guy came over yesterday and like we were just making out and then he like came all over my hand and like then he left in a hurry and hasn't texted me since. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, this man's in my head now since he hasn't texted me. That's dead ass a true story. That man came in my hand real quick. I'm so evil for mentioning that and I don't give a fuck. My best friend will be sitting there too and I get her advice and then I get his advice. So it's like, I get the girl's advice, obviously, like the girls with the girls, but then I'm like, from a male's brain, like, it's just such a different world in there. So my best friend will be like, oh, that happened because he just like really likes you and he's embarrassed to text you. And then Justin's like, no, he probably actually just like got what he wanted from you and that was that. I said, Justin, fucking relax. I'm still a woman at the end of the day. I still have feelings. Like, he's not wrong. I will say sometimes the honesty, like, from Justin does hurt. Because, like, my dumbass thought it was a great idea to, like, let's go around the table and, like, let's play our red flags. Like, everyone say our red flags. When Justin, like, mentioned my red flag, like, I haven't stopped thinking about that since. And every time I see him, I'm like, remember when you said that about me? Like, remember when you said that about me? So having a straight man like help you in the dating game is not for the fucking weak. They're really fucking honest and sometimes that really hurts my feelings, but it's like whatever. I'd rather that than just be like out here clueless thinking like I'm doing the damn thing. And there's been several times where Justin had to like humble me. I'm like, no, like I don't give a fuck, like I'm doing it like this. And Justin's like, if I was him, I would think that's so weird. Like I wouldn't want to speak to someone who acted like that. And I'm like, oh my, and then my best friend's like, he's not wrong. Like he's not wrong. But Justin is now just so crucial to my dating game. He's also crucial to like my best friend's dating game. Not the one he's dating. That'd be fucking weird. Nicole. I'll be like, wait, let me ask Justin. Like, let me get Justin's opinion. And I FaceTime my best friend and him and like I get both of their opinions and I'm like, well, Justin said this. Like we're all in a group FaceTime. I'm like, God, Justin's not wrong, Nicole. Like, Justin's not wrong. But it's a little fucking dangerous because like now I get a look inside the male's brain and I get to have a little bit more calculated decisions, like, ooh. But he also makes me feel really justified when I'm like, no, I'm leaving him. He's like, yeah, you should fucking leave him. I assume this is like what having a brother would be like. I don't have one of those, so I assume it would be like something like that. But it has changed my dating game, and I highly recommend getting a straight man on your side who just wants to see you win. Like, it's game changer in the dating game.
Am I the arsehole for refusing to tell my husband where I was? Story time. So last night my husband, who we'll call Steve, had some friends over. Ew. So after I had gone to bed, they were being so freaking loud. They were drinking, playing lots of games in the garden, and then they came inside when it got too cold, so they were even louder. So annoying to me because I needed to be up early in the morning for work. So by about 3:30 in the morning, I went downstairs. I was freaking livid at this point. And I said to my husband, please, can you stop being so loud? I have work tomorrow. You know, you're being really inconsiderate. And, you know, you kind of expect people to be like, yeah, that's not a problem. We'll keep the music down. Like, we'll tone it down a little bit. No. My husband turned round to me and said, why don't you go sleep somewhere else if you're so bothered? Apparently, it was supposed to be a joke and he was quoting a film. But in the moment, it very much pissed me off. So I decided to take myself somewhere else. I decided to go across to our neighbour's apartment across the hallway and I slept there. So after a while, my husband starts calling and texting me, trying to find out where I am. And I let that bitch ring. At one point, it really started to annoy me. So I just replied to a text of him saying, where are you? And I just said, somewhere else. And now Steve is saying that he thinks I've taken it too far and that he was just drunk and I should have known that it was a joke. He said, I'm in the wrong here because I should have told him where I was. He was really, really worried about me and I took the joke far too far. So what do you think? Am I wrong here?
When my girlfriend and I get into a fight, she pees on the floor. So throwaway account for obvious reasons. But a couple of months ago, I, male 24, met this really incredible girl, female 22, and we hit it off. We shared a lot of common interests and spent pretty much every waking moment together. She had this really weird obsession with being a cat girl, but I thought it was kinda hot, so I didn't really care too much. Even though it was pretty early into our relationship, we decided to move in together. And it was pretty good for the first couple of weeks. But then things started getting weird. I'm not going to beat around the bush, and I need you to understand that I'm being 100% serious. She started pissing on the carpet when she's frustrated with me. She says it's a part of her kinship or something. But when we have an argument, she'll just squat and piss somewhere in the apartment. I don't know what to do. I'm losing my mind, and my entire apartment smells like urine. I do genuinely enjoy her company, but this is getting out of hand.
I don't know what to do.
I need help, please.
What is going on?
Are the straight people okay?
What is going on? Not only do you have to argue about it, not only you have to worry about losing the argument, but your loss now results into a urinated carpet.
No.
Oh my God.
No. Can you imagine getting so mad at someone that you piss the floor?
Not only can I not control my emotions, but my bowels as well. Oh, damn it! Pull my dick out and start pissing.
Would you pee back?
If I was him and I got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore, you can't beat him, just join him.
Am I the asshole for waiting out my prenup before divorcing my cheating wife? Absolutely not. If it worked in your favor, hell no. Bro played the long game. She played checkers and he played chess. My wife settled for me. I didn't know it when we married, but I do now. She was in love with her high school boyfriend that her parents hated. She was with him all through university. Her parents finally told her that they would cut her off financially if she stayed with him. We met soon afterwards and I fell in love. She did not. Once again, this was a surprise to me. That sucks so much. That sucks, finding out that the love of your life settled for you. That is so sad. We had a prenup that her parents insisted on. I was in it for the long run, so I had no problem with it. I basically got nothing if we divorced before we were married 10 years. After that, it was an even split as long as I was not the cause. She was begging her old boyfriend our entire marriage. I found out after we were married for 8 years. I was angry and depressed. I had spent 8 years supporting her in her career. She has a much better paying job than I do. It's high profile and she deals with our government a lot. This bitch, yeah, bro, you're still not the asshole. Hell no. No, you're not. I decided I could handle 2 more years of infidelity. I had already done 8 unknowingly. I filed for divorce on the day after our 10th anniversary. I let her parents pay for our vacation. I didn't do anything dirty like send the evidence that I had to her parents. I would have blasted her ass. I just had a lawyer draft claim for divorce. Included was the evidence that the prenup had lapsed and our holdings were to be split. She said that I blindsided her after our holiday away. She doesn't understand why I would do it. I said that I just don't think we're compatible anymore. I'm prepared to go nuclear if I have to, but I don't want our kids, yes, they're mine, I checked, knowing why. I'm keeping the evidence that I have on her boyfriend in my pocket. I can blow up his marriage. He's married too? Okay, I can blow up his marriage and make her parents pissed at her if I absolutely must. I just prefer to end things with me in a decent financial position to take care of the kids. Am I the asshole for what I did? No, you're absolutely not the asshole for doing things the way that you did because, sir, you have so much more patience and class than I do because the way I would be out screaming from the tops of mountains about this bitch cheating on me, but I think, like, for sure, you should tell her parents. If you don't tell anybody else, you should tell her parents because this bitch has cheated on you for 10 years. She's committed. She is committed. If you don't tell her parents, at least let her know. Let her know that you know she's been cheating. And if she decides to go and try to tell lies to people as to why you guys broke up to make you seem like the bad guy, let her know that you will air out all of her dirty laundry, that you will ruin her boyfriend. If you don't tell anybody, you should tell her. Make sure she understands that you know. Bitch, you may think you have gotten away with this and I've just decided to leave. But just know, if anybody out here know, I know.
Trigger warning on this next one, friends. It does contain talks of child loss. Would I be the asshole for not inviting my sister-in-law to my baby shower after she announced her pregnancy at my daughter's funeral? In 2020, I, female 28, gave birth to my daughter. In 2022, she passed away after a fight with childhood cancer. It was the hardest time of both mine and my husband's entire life. Since then, it's been a struggle every day, and I miss her more than I ever thought I could miss someone. It's like a part of me was lost with her. Shortly after she passed away, we had a memorial service for her. That is where my sister-in-law decided to tell people that she was expecting. She didn't make any big announcements or anything, but more than 10 people at the service heard, and it's what everyone was talking about. To understate it, I was livid. A few months ago, I found out I'm pregnant again. My own sister really wanted to plan me a baby shower. I said okay, and I've been working on who I want to invite. I really don't want sister-in-law there. Besides what she did, she's a vindictive and mean person, and I cannot stand her. I don't want her there. I mentioned it to my husband, and he says he could care less whether she's there or not. But for the sake of saving face, I want opinions before I do this. Would I be the asshole for not inviting her? Also, for context, I would still be inviting my other two sister-in-laws, husband's other sis, and husband's brother's wife. She'd be the only one not invited.
Ooh, first of all, not the place and time for that announcement.
Come on.
At all.
Come on.
Like, you don't show up to like a memorial service and say, number one, I'm going to make this about me. Number two, about something really, like, sensitive in the moment.
Yeah. I think it's a fair boundary to set for a baby shower because, like, you're already dealing with so many feelings regarding this new child, this pregnancy after losing
That's a huge
baby.
next step. And you don't want to invite the person that made something about them that was really sensitive.
Exactly. And I could see her finding a way to detract from that moment.
No, I don't think I would invite her at all. And I don't think I'd feel bad either.
No. Mm-mm.
So everyone else can come but you.
Will it create drama? Yeah,
Yeah.
it likely would. But I think you can say at that point in time, you know what? I was having the worst day of my life and you made it worse by sharing your news.
Right.
I think that was extremely inappropriate.
It's your own fault that you're not going to get invited.
Yeah.
I didn't start this drama.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just disrespectful.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all.
No. The top comment on it, not the asshole. And if anyone, she asked why the other sister-in-laws were invited and she wasn't, explained that they didn't announce their pregnancy at your daughter's funeral.
I don't think it should have to be said. Like, why do you think you weren't invited? What could possibly be the reason that I'm not going to this baby shower?
I wonder.
Here are some things that I would tell my 18-year-old self. Only 24 now, but a bitch has lived a lot of life, like too much fucking life in that time. And these are just some things that I'm like, I wish my 18-year-old self would have known this. You refuse to let go of someone who's no longer supposed to be in your life. The universe is gonna do whatever they have to get that person out of your life. Get a high yield savings account, bitch. And don't touch the money that you put in there. You are gonna thank God one day that man that you wanted to marry so badly was not the one. And the next one after that. Let go of toxic and negative friendships. If they're meant to come back into your life, they will. And they did. Loving yourself and hating yourself take the same amount of energy and effort and dedication. Choose to love yourself. You'll be a lot fucking happier that way. Go to therapy. You are not as healed as you think you are, and it'll be the best thing you can do for yourself. You can't go through the things that you've been through and just expect yourself to be fine and healed. Therapy will help you actually heal from the trauma that you didn't deserve. You have to convince someone to love you. They don't love you. Your trauma from a toxic household does not determine if you're going to be successful or not. You determine that. Don't let a man take away your youth with empty promises. Boyfriends will come and go even if they feel like they're permanent, but your girlfriends will be there forever. So make sure you're making memories with them a priority. I can't remember a fucking thing I did with that loser ex that I was dating for 2 years, but I vividly remember every single night with my girlfriends. Your looks and your body is the least interesting thing about you. Have a small circle and be careful who you let in. Living in fight or flight is not normal, and you don't have to live like that anymore. Do exactly what scares you. If you're scared to do something, that means the payoff is gonna be so fucking worth it. Just because you tried something and it didn't work out does not mean you failed. Be around people who make you love life. Do not spend money that you do not have. Those are just some things I wish I knew at 18, so if any of those help you, love you. It's a rough world out there, but you know what? At least we have each other.
Am I wrong for announcing our pregnancy at my brother's wedding after he proposed at mine? My brother said he was going to propose at my wedding. I told him no, that day was about myself and my wife, and we did not want any distractions. My mom lost her shit. She said that he wanted family he might not see again for a while to be a part of the proposal. I said I did not give a shit and that if he did it, I would have him kicked out. He did it, and my mom said if I tried kicking him out, she would leave too. I just remember seething inside. My brother got married last weekend. Instead of a welcome to the family toast, I used that time to announce that we were expecting our first baby. My mom was upset, but my grandmother told her to sit down and shut up. We spent most of the reception talking to family we would not see again for a while about our upcoming baby. My mom says I was an for taking attention away from my brother on his wedding day. She got really mad when I reminded her that she threatened to leave my wedding if I kicked him out after he proposed. I have a screenshot of the text messages as well. Fun fact, my wife is not pregnant. My wife wanted to get even after we agreed to have the wedding in my home country, and her friends and family had to travel for our wedding, and he hijacked it.
Am I the asshole for refusing to share my huge inheritance with my step-siblings? So I, 17 male, found out only a few weeks ago that my dad left me a lot of money in a trust. Like, it's a crazy amount that I didn't even really believe it at first, but it's true. The reason is my dad inherited from both of his parents, and he also inherited from the only two uncles he had as well. One of them was very successful and had a business. This was all explained in a letter that my dad wrote to me. He had the trust set up before he came into most of the money, but when he found out his cancer was incurable, he decided to put it all aside for me once all of his medical bills were paid off. My parents were separated but not legally divorced when my dad was sick and he passed away. They weren't living together nor were they a couple for a year. This was 10 years ago. My mom found out about the money because she read the letter that he sent to me about the issue. Then she insisted that she join me to meet with the lawyers to discuss this. When my mom learned about the money, she told her husband, and suddenly the money became a very touchy subject. I can't touch it until I'm 19 with the way that my dad has it set up, so I have some time to deal with this. But my mom and her husband want me to share the money with my step-siblings, 14, 8, and 7. The money is enough that even if I pay for college and buy a house, I would have money left over. The way the trust works is I was told it's also building interest, which my dad had intentionally set up. My mom and her husband have struggled financially for years. They started dating when his youngest kid was 1. His wife passed away and he was going through a legal battle with the mother of his oldest. His oldest was in therapy for the trauma caused to them by the mom. Also, his youngest was born with some medical issues and has lots of doctor's appointments. Between everything, money was tight. We live paycheck to paycheck, and I worked to make my own life a little bit more comfortable. But we had no college savings or anything before this. My mom and her husband drained their own bank account to keep a roof over our heads. This has all been brought up to me as a good reason why I should do this. My mom told me it was selfish for my dad to put it all away solely for my future, and he should have been thinking about raising me as well. She told me that I might not call her husband dad or any of his kids my siblings, but we're a family, and that this family has been through so much together and we've struggled together for so long that it would be so good and generous for me to do this. No. Why would my dad have to consider all this other shit when he's worrying about making sure his child is set up when he's no longer here to do so? This has nothing to do with that. This is strictly up to OP. If he wants to help out, he has all rights and privileges to do that. But if he decides that he wants to keep this money to better his future, he has all right to do that. This was sent to him. It was left to him from his father. That's it and that's all. Like, no. OP is not the asshole if he decides he doesn't want to fucking share his inheritance. I told my mom that it's not like I can access the money now. She said no, but when I do, I should set up accounts for my 3 step-siblings so they have a better chance at college, and if not college, the chance to have a help start in life. Despite all their trying to talk me into it, I said no. I told them I wasn't going to share the money. My mom was so mad, but it was nothing compared to how mad her husband was. They told me to quit being selfish and start acting with compassion. Am I the asshole? Absolutely not. You are not the asshole in any way, shape, or form. Just because you know this man and he's married to your mom does not mean that he is entitled to twist his mouth and ask you to take care of his fucking kids. I completely get them needing help, but this is nothing that you're supposed to fix. This is not your problem. to solve. I absolutely hate when people try to use family as a thing to try to make people do something they don't want to do. This is your family. This is your family, okay? And I've been given an opportunity to do something for myself that was left to me also by family. By fucking family. The dad set it up so that he couldn't touch that money until he was 19. That way he would be of legal age to move the fuck out and not be entitled to give anything to his mother. The dad knew exactly what was going to happen, and he set this up purposely to protect his son. The last thing I'm going to say, y'all already know, be prepared to move out. Be ready to move the fuck out. Keep all of your important documents locked away. Keep them close by you. Do everything that you can to make sure when that time comes, you're up and you're the fuck out, because it's going to happen. It's coming. I wouldn't be surprised if your mom already tried to pull that shit. Well, if you're not going to help, then you can leave. I wouldn't be fucking surprised. But baby, just be ready when the time comes and you're able to access your money. Get the fuck gone. Get the fuck gone, because it's just going to get worse. Once you're able to actually put your hands on that money, it is going to get so much fucking worse. Be ready to dip out.
Am I wrong for calling off my wedding and telling my fiance to move back home with mommy? I'm not even gonna try and swing this in my favor here by leaving out details or sugarcoating anything. I was mean about it. He was crying. I've been with my fiance for 7 years, and we've been engaged for 3 years. We've gone ahead and tried to do a save the date 4 times now, and every single time, his mom convinces him to postpone it. It's always a, well, don't you think you have bigger things to worry about? Whether it be our living situation, we are renting, and she thinks we should buy first because we aren't stable, or our money situation. This was her excuse after we loaned her $8,000, so she didn't lose her house. But we have plenty of money. My husband is an RN, and I'm a lawyer. It's always something. We planned for a family gathering in my mom's backyard. She has 3 acres and a beautiful pond, and it's just perfect. And we were doing a potluck, so very low-cost wedding. Plus, everyone we know lives within an hour of the location, so only a month or 2 notice is perfectly acceptable in our case. With all that said, his mom has 0 reason to try and sway us against it. But her newest argument is that we need to wait until our daughter is at least 3 so she can be our flower girl. Our daughter is 7 months old. Well, in December, my husband and I talked, and we decided we wanted to get married in August. I told him, don't let your mom dictate it, and he said he wouldn't, and that he is tired of listening to her. Fair enough. But last weekend, my mother and his mother came over for dinner. I was talking to my mom about what dress I wanted her to wear as the matron of honor. My husband's mom asked when we planned to tell her we had decided on a date, and my husband said, when we told everyone else. She just said, oh, got quiet, and took leave maybe 20 minutes later. He had already made plans to go to her house after dinner to help her with her cable box, so he left shortly after and headed over to her place, while I drank some wine with my mom. When he got back, he was super quiet, and he just said that he was tired and went to bed. But last night, he just said at random, my mom kind of has a point. Maybe we should wait until we buy a house so our living situation is a bit more stable. She's not wrong in saying it's something we should be worried about. I just went silent and didn't comment because I was pissed off. But he kept making comments like, it'll only be a couple of years, 5 at most. I just took my ring off and handed it to him and said I was no longer interested. He immediately started protesting and trying to put the ring back on my finger, and I wouldn't let him. I said I was no longer interested in marrying him, and maybe he should move back home with mommy, because I know for a fact that woman will make up another excuse the second we buy a house, and I'm just really turned off at the thought of having to marry him at this point because I have 0 business being with a man who has no backbone and would put our lives in hold on favor of a woman who still wants to scrub his back in the shower. As I said, I was mean about it. But to be clear, up to now, no, she had not said she wants to scrub his back in the shower, but she often talks about how she had to help him in the shower for months when he was 16 because he broke his leg. As the story goes, he told her he didn't want help and she forced it because she's a weirdo. And it's weirder that she still talks about it like it's a fond memory. He's crying at this point and I'm stupid calm. Maybe because I'm over it. And I told him I wanted him to leave or I could leave, but those were the only options. He ended up leaving, sobbing the entire time. I do feel bad. I feel gutted. He means everything to me. But I can't do this anymore. Am I wrong? His mom has been blowing up my phone with texts, trying to plead her case, and I just texted back and said, no, it's fine. You won. Now you can have your baby boy back full time. And blocked her number. My friends think I'm wildly overreacting.
I was born into an interesting family. We were broken emotionally and financially. I was pretty socially awkward and behaviorally. I always had stomach issues and allergies and got sick often, etc. I started school and I would get in trouble. I didn't know better, so I would slap kids and be really aggressive. So I was getting kicked out of class a bunch of times a day. I'm really sensory and hyperactive. And it got worse as I got older, and it started affecting my learning and academic. At the same time, there was abuse going on at home. I have a father who is emotionally unwell and has mental health issues, and he was verbally and physically abusive. I started having problems because I was overweight even though I was eating healthy, blood sugar and cholesterol, and I started restricting my eating. I was barely eating and became underweight around that time, and around 7 to 8 years old, I got diagnosed with autism and anxiety, ADHD, and a mood disorder. At this point, people were taking advantage of me for all types of things, and neighbors started sexually abusing me, telling me if I let them, they would be my friend, and I was desperate for a friend. It went on until I moved. At this point, my school kicked me out, and my mom switched me to a self-contained class and started me on medication. I started ABA therapy, and I kept declining, and eventually I was kicked out of that school too. Then the physical issues got worse. I was always clumsy and wasn't up to par. I had fine motor issues, but I took a fast decline. First it was a foot drop. I went to physical therapy, and they said it's definitely neurological. At the same time, stuff at home started declining too. They then decided to put me back in my old school, and they kicked me out by the time a month came. I got lost, had no friends, my physical health was really bad, and at this point I started not being able to walk the stairs regularly, and it just kept getting worse. I started going to a neurologist, and she was very concerned that my reflexes were off. The neurologist was very concerned and ordered a ton of tests, but none of them were showing things that would cause this. I ended up being homeschooled, and it was not working out, but we still tried. I was regressing academically and physically. Altogether, that year was a disaster for my family, and my health was taking a steady decline. The next year, we decided to be organized and prepare. So we had a whole program in place for PT speech and ABA sped. It was getting really tough to walk the stairs, but I was getting intense PT and OT, so I didn't regress as fast. Then, in the middle of the year, my mother got diagnosed with cancer, solitary plasmacytoma. First, she was in the hospital, then rehab, as it was on her spinal cord. So I started staying at my aunt's. Then after my mom said she needed to rest up by her mother, so our whole family moved into my grandma's house. She took the brave step of separating while there. My mom's cancer did not go away, and I continued to decline. Next year, I started going to a school for students with autism out of state. I was staying at my dad's mom's house, which was not fun, but the school had all the services that I needed. And they realized my feet were going numb, and that's when I started not being able to straighten my legs, so walking was super hard. I just kept regressing in all areas, and the symptoms started getting really aggressive, and my mom brought me to the emergency room. I was admitted and had a lot of tests done, and they just didn't have any answers. I went home with an appointment with one of the consultants for a second opinion. I went there and, without examining, said conversation/F&D, said I should go to rehab in 4 months. So I went on. My hands began to clench and I couldn't afford it, but I went back to my chaotic life. I was in Brooklyn in school while my mom moved into her own house that was special for me. We got a house that would work for me with a banister on the right shower rod since I kept falling. At the same time, I went on a school trip that lasted over the weekend, and at that point I was really struggling. I couldn't walk up the stairs anymore, and I was struggling supporting my own body. On the trip, I was in extreme agony, and I started struggling swallowing. I went home, and right away my mom brought me to the hospital. I got there, and they said it's conversion disorder, even though my reflexes were newborn-like. They tried to sustain me on IV fluids, but couldn't, so they placed an NG tube and started continuous feeds. I lost my ability to walk and then stand in 2 months waiting for rehab. I finally got there, and right away they said they just didn't know what to do. I stayed a week, and they sent me back. When I got back, I continued declining. I couldn't sit, then roll, then hold my head up, then came continence both 1 and 2. I started to give up and kept on pulling my tube out. Then 2 months later, they asked me if I would go to the med/psych ward by Hasbro. They said everything would be the same, so I gave consent, and if I ever wanted to leave, I can. I got there, and they took my phone away from me and made me a one-on-one. I got mad and cut off all ties to my family and friends. It was a crazy place. It started off with therapy, but they didn't know what they were doing. Then started the crazy part. I was in a tilted wheelchair because I couldn't support myself, but they decided to put me in a regular wheelchair. Of course I fell out, so they decided that I would have to stay on the floor. And if I fall out, I had to stay on the floor for an hour. Nobody was allowed to talk to me, and I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone either. They would do this, so I started self-harming. I would use my thumb, which was the only finger that I could still use, and dig into myself the whole day until the night when they put me in bed. Also, when they were yanking my hands open, I would scream and cry. Then with the food, they would put me in a tilted chair and give me 10 minutes to eat. Otherwise, they would retrain me and give me a shot of heroin in my sore spot. And this happened 3 times a day. They took me off the meds that were working and put me on psych meds. I started retaining urine, so they had to cath me, but they waited so long and I was in so much pain. They got 1,200 cc's of urine and decided they were only catheterizing me every 12 hours. I started having SI. I said I'd rather be dead than there, so I would try and cut deep into my skin. They put an order that nobody was allowed to stop me, and one day I dug so deep that they actually had to call security because they were not able to stop me due to orders. They caught the surge and had to stuff it because they couldn't do surgery because it wasn't sterile. I was out on a 2-to-1 for a few days and then a 1-to-1. I then remembered that they said I can sign out, so I asked, and they said, no, you're not mentally fit to make that decision, and they decided to sedate me and open my hands. Now my hands were contracted and I had a big infection. They put something in my hands to keep it open, and this went on for 2 months until I realized that my family and friends did nothing wrong. So I slowly started speaking to my family again, and turns out the hospitals and doctors were lying to everyone. I told them what was going on and they told them they had to stop treatment. After a while, my mom decided to take me home, and eventually she did. An ambulance brought me to the airport and a plane ambulance brought me to my city. They had the ambulance take me to my house where they set up a ramp, a tilted wheelchair, and a hospital bedroom on the first floor that used to be a stuffy. They did not send me home with the proper script, so we had to figure it out on our own due to my mother having one of her tumors on her spine. She could not care for me on her own. She has to pay for a full-time aid out of pocket. I was stable for a while, but then I started declining again. My memory is getting worse. I started aspirating and vomiting, and then I was stable for a while again. My mom kept bringing me to doctors, and they all said it's something science has not figured out yet. I opened a slime shop and a GoFundMe for my situation, and I stayed stable for a while. I've been diagnosed with a couple of things, but we didn't have the reason I started declining again. About 6 months ago, my arms contracted, my speech started slurring, then I could only make noises and only people who knew me well could understand. Now comes the most amazing part. I went to an infectious disease doctor who started me on a bunch of meds and suspected some sort of tick-borne disease and infection-induced autoimmune encephalitis. They put me on a TA1 shot, 3 antibiotics, and anti-inflammatory meds. And the problem is now that I'm in the HERC state. The infection thinks it owns my body since it's been there so long, but I started making progress. I can now move my toes and ankles, and my arms are less tight, and I have more trunk control. I've already been diagnosed with Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and we think there's more. I'm still testing, but I recently got pandas, and it may be chronic now, but at least we have answers. Also, my mind comes and goes, so no offense to anyone. My journey is far from over, but thank you so much for helping me.
Am I the asshole for not telling my son that his brother passed? My youngest son slept with his brother's wife. After my oldest found out, he and his wife got a divorce. My youngest married her a year later. I wouldn't tell him shit either because it probably was your oldest son's wishes for them not to be told. Like, I probably would have honored him and not told him either. My 56 male, oldest son, 33 male, had cancer and passed away 3 weeks ago. Over the months leading up to his death, my youngest son, 30 male, and his wife had been trying to reconcile with my oldest, but he always made it known he wanted nothing to do with them. He specifically told me that they were unforgiven, and he wouldn't forgive them just to ease their guilt. When I kept bringing up the idea of reconciling, he would get mad at me, so I stopped trying. I just kept telling my youngest and his wife that they had to accept that he wanted nothing to do with them and they needed to move on. I agree with you. You guys literally broke this man's heart. You as his brother and you as his wife, you guys broke his heart and then got married a year after the divorce was finalized. I want nothing to do with you. They need to respect that. Back the hell off. When my oldest passed, I didn't tell my youngest and his wife to honor his wishes. He always made it clear they didn't deserve to mourn him in life, and they didn't deserve to mourn him in death either. About a week ago, my youngest saw his brother's obituary and called me, screaming for not telling him that his brother had passed away. He told me that I denied him the opportunity to make things right and that I should have told him his brother passed. There was no opportunity. There was nothing to make right. Your brother has told you he doesn't want anything to do with you for a long time. For a long time. You think because he was dying, he was going to forgive you to make you feel better when he's already stated that he's not going to do that? You need to take accountability and move the fuck on. I told him that it would be disrespectful for him to come in the first place, as his brother wouldn't have even wanted him there, and that he and his wife denied themselves from attending. He hung up on me and blocked my number. My wife told me that she feels guilty for not telling him, and that we should have given him the opportunity to say goodbye to his brother. I told her that I would just find it disrespectful of us to do so, as he made it clear he didn't want them to come. She told me that she understands, but she's upset that our youngest is mad at us, and that we should try to put everything behind us to heal. This is why your eldest was so upset, because you can't just put everything behind you and heal. This man cheated with his brother's wife and then married her a year later. That is disgusting behavior. That is enough for me to not want to deal with my son anymore, because I didn't raise you to be this way. I did not raise you to go after the one fucking woman in the world that you know is spoken for, to go after the woman that your brother married. What do you mean? Put everything behind you and heal? You don't understand. You don't understand. Not at all. I told my wife that what our youngest did was unforgivable, and I wasn't going to allow him to disrespect his brother in life and in death as well. My wife has been crying constantly because our son blocked us, and she started blaming me as well. I'm hurt, but I don't regret what I did or even see what I did wrong. I feel like my youngest should just take accountability of his actions instead of blaming everyone else. No, I don't think you're the asshole at all. I do think that your youngest son is selfish as fuck. I do think he is selfish as fuck because he's over here whining, pissing, moaning, screaming, and yelling about the fact that he didn't have a chance to make it right. Your youngest son does not care about how his brother feels. He does not care about the pain that his brother went through, because he wasn't trying to reconcile to make things better, to actually make things better within their relationship. He was trying to do things to make himself feel better. He didn't care about your son's feeling when he was cheating with his fucking wife, because of all the bitches in the world you could have fucked, you chose your brother's wife and then married the cheating bitch after she got fucking divorced. Like, this man has never cared about how his brother felt. It's always been about how he feels. Your youngest son is extremely fucking selfish, and I don't think you're the asshole for not telling him that his brother passed away. He didn't give a fuck about him while he was alive. He don't give a fuck about him now. But like he said, he's only upset because he wasn't given the opportunity to make things right. Your fucking son is delusional as hell. If him and his wife truly believed that they were going to be able to fix this as the man that they hurt was dying. No, I don't think you're the asshole at all.
Storytime about how I got caught making out with my cousin after escaping a cult. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me an Instagram. Before you judge me, just hear me out. 4 years ago, my parents met this guy at our church. He basically convinced them to go live with him in his freaking cult. And for some reason, my parents decided to give him all of our money. For 3 years, my family and I were in this cult. Essentially, we had to work every single day instead of going to school. We were made to wear uniforms. We were also told even when to eat. Every single aspect of our lives was controlled. The third year there, I turned 16. I was the oldest out of my siblings. This is when I grabbed my siblings and I went to talk to my parents in private. And I told my parents that we were sick of this. It was absolutely horrible. Who wants to live in a cult? It actually took another year for me to convince my parents to finally let us go. By the time we left, I was 17 and hadn't seen my family in over 4 years. Thankfully, my parents came to their senses and we left. For some reason, my parents didn't want to contact their parents. So we ended up going to a shelter for 2 months. And then I finally convinced my parents of contacting their parents. This was the blessing we needed. Grandma was so happy to hear from my mom. The entire family didn't actually know what happened to us. They actually assumed we were dead. Go to part 2. Storytime about how I got caught making out with my cousin after escaping from a cult. Part 2, and disclaimer, this is not my story time. I'm sending me on Instagram. Our entire family actually thought that my family and I were dead because they hadn't heard from us in 4 years. Thankfully, my grandma was so happy to hear from my mom, though. She actually asked my mom if we wanted to go live with them. You see, my grandparents had a 7-bedroom house, and they also owned 2 businesses. They also offered my parents jobs. It was such a blessing. Slowly, family started to come over. That's when my cousin and his parents came over, and it was lust and love at first sight. A few weeks later, my parents wanted to throw my little brother a birthday party. And of course, my cousin came around too. He started hanging out with us almost every single weekend up until that point. During the party, he asked me if I wanted to go for a walk in the woods. And when we did, he kissed me. It was beautiful and magical. But when we turned around, we saw a bunch of kids from the party, including my little brother who ran off and told my parents. Lucky for me, my parents were so desensitized from the cult that they didn't actually get mad. They just told us never to do it again. But my cousin still comes over. And we always go for a walk in the woods and make out. Is this totally wrong? Because I've suffered so much, I feel like I deserve this. And he's also my second cousin. Does that change anything? What should I do?
I ruined my ex's life, and I'm proud of it. Story time. So me and my boyfriend, who we'll call Steve, met in our final years of college. Shortly after we met, we went into lockdown, so all of our schooling was online. Now, Steve was that like bad boy influence. He was not a good guy at all. So Steve became very manipulative. All I wanted was like a nice romantic boyfriend who would do nice things for me. And we had this agreement that if I did all of his schoolwork, his homework, then he would do all of those really nice things for me. We ended up moving in together in like our college dorms. Throughout the relationship, he literally cut me off from all of my friends. He was like, when you're in a relationship, you don't need friends. But you know, of course, it was absolutely fine for him to have friends. He said that if I ever decided to make any friends, he would expose some pretty heavy stuff about me. During all of this blackmail, I would do all of his work and in between just try and squeeze in my own stuff. At this point, I'd kind of grown some balls and I'd decided that I wasn't going to do his own stuff anymore. I had started to fail, so I was now just doing my own work and he had taken control of his own homework. And because I was no longer doing his homework, he told me that he was bored of me and that he wanted to be single. So he told me that he was 100% gonna break up with me, but he was gonna wait to do this until after I had taken all of his A-level exams. So of course I agreed to do everything for him, all of his exams, everything. So Steve was supposed to be taking me to prom. I buy my dress, I book my hair, I get my nails done, spray tan, the whole shebang. My mum even hired a photographer. We went in. Anyway, a few days before prom, he calls the whole thing off. He says that he can't do it anymore, he can't lie about everything, and that he's actually going to go to prom with his best friend, who is a girl. And his friend actually sent me pictures of Steve and this girl hooking up. I'm sure you can imagine, I was livid. Now, I know you're here to know how I ended up ruining my ex's life. So remember the A-levels that I said I would take for him? So I did take them. Decided I was going to put the amount of effort into it that Steve had put into our relationship. So obviously he failed them all with a big fat fucking 0%. And this was like 3 months before we were going to get our results. So like, what was he going to do? So when the day came that he actually found out what his grades was, I have never seen someone lose their shit the way this boy did. And he went on an absolute rampage. All the pictures that he had on me, he posted them all over Snapchat. He told his friends what I'd done. They told their friends. But the absolute hilarious part of it all was that nobody actually cared. It kind of had the reverse effect. All of his friends took my side because now they obviously thought that he was like an A-class psycho. He then texts me and I'm now 3 months into this brand new relationship with this amazing guy. We have boundaries, we have respect for each other. So he was just giving me a little life update. Turns out that he had to retake every single class because they found out I was the one that had been doing it for him. His mum kicked him out the house, which meant that he then had to get a job to be able to pay for his accommodation. So he was then trying to retake all 2 years of his A-levels and work at the same time. And turns out he just ended up dropping out completely, even in his car. So yeah, he probably won't be able to get a good job for the rest of his life now. And yeah, like I said, I'm proud of it. And that is how I ruined his life.
Am I the asshole for telling my ex-fiance's parents exactly why we broke up and I called off the wedding? So I met my ex-fiance Amy when we were both 27. Right off the bat, we hit it off. Pretty early in our relationship, Amy let me know that she had a pretty wild past. She wanted to be honest and upfront with me. I told her that I didn't care, but I did have concerns about whether she was actually wanting to settle down, which I kept to myself. She had told me how her past had caused a lot of strain with her parents, but didn't really go into detail. I pushed all of that aside and dove in. We had an amazing relationship. Over the years, I grew pretty close to her parents. I spent a lot of time at their house helping her dad with projects. We'd often all three go out to lunch afterwards. They were wonderful people. After dating for about 3 years, I proposed. Amy was ecstatic, but her parents were even more excited. We had what seemed like a fairy tale engagement. Allie was a coworker of Amy's and they became really close. Allie is one of the kindest and most sincere people that I've ever met. Okay, well, see, everything sounds great. So how did we end up here? How did you end up on Reddit asking if you're the ass? Like, see, I can't wait to figure it out. One weekend, Amy's friend Sarah invited her on a weekend trip to Vegas. Now, Sarah was not someone that I liked. She was a friend from that time in Amy's life who was a very bad influence. She would pressure her to drink, do drugs, hook up, things like that. I heard her call me boring multiple times on the phone with Amy, and even heard her tell her that she should break up with me a couple of times. She was just kidding, of course. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but Sarah invited Amy's friend Allie, which did make me feel a lot better. They went to a club one night and some guys were all over them. They invited the girls to their suite upstairs where they were throwing an after party. Amy and Allie declined, but Sarah guilt-tripped them into going. During the party, Allie was alone and wanted to go back up to their room and sleep. She went looking for Sarah and Amy to see if they wanted to leave or just to let them know that she was leaving. She found them in a room. Sarah was hooking up with one guy, and Amy was having a threesome with two guys. Ooh. The next morning, Amy begged Allie not to say anything to me. Sarah said that it was her fault. Okay, no, sir, you are not the asshole, because I would tell her parents exactly why I'm ending the marriage too, or the relationship and ending the engagement. Fuck yeah. Wow. Amy. Girl, do what you do, but not when you in a relationship, because you nasty. When they got back, Allie told me everything right away. Good fucking shit. Good shit, Allie. I like her. I like her. Allie is that friend that everybody is afraid of, because you can't do shit around nobody like Allie, who's honest and sincere and is not going to allow you to fuck over your fiance. She's immediately going to say something. Yeah, bitches who do dirt, they don't like people like Allie. I love people like Allie, because tell me, because what the fuck you mean don't tell him? Bitch, I just seen you the base of an Eiffel Tower. Get the fuck out of here. No. Yeah, bitches don't like Allie. I love me a Allie. Get you a Allie friend. Everything will be right. When they got back, Allie told me everything right away. To her credit, Amy didn't deny any of it. She said she freaked out about getting married and fucked up. No, see, when you freak out, you go to your friend's house and you end up over there drunk for 2 days, stressed out, crying about what if he really doesn't want to spend the rest of his life. That's a normal freak out about getting married. What if I'm not ready? You go to your mom's house and you cry in the bed. You don't go fuck 2 different guys and be like, I fucked up. I was freaking out. No, you got to come up with a better excuse for me. No. I was crushed, but obviously called off the wedding and broke up with her on the spot. I hadn't told many people about what happened except my immediate family. This all happened 6 months ago. I saw Amy's parents at a hardware store a week ago. They expressed how sad they were that we broke up. Her mom, who I was close with, asked me what happened. She didn't think I was the cold feet type and would just cut Amy out of my life. I was confused, but then kind of awkwardly clarified that when she was partying with Sarah, who they knew all about, she decided to cheat on me with 2 guys at the same time. They were sad, but not surprised. They had hoped she was turning a new leaf. Period. I would have told them too, because bitch, not you running back to your parents, making it seem like I had cold feet and just backed out of the wedding. No, bitch, because you're a slore. You're a slore. So I told your parents that you were in Vegas being a slore. The fuck? About 2 days later, I got a slew of texts from Amy. She was pissed that I told them and saw it as a way for me to get back at her by turning her parents against her. She said she gave me everything I wanted in the breakup and apologized a million times. It was true. She moved out immediately, worked out canceling wedding plans, etc. It was a clean break and no drama. That said, her parents are super pissed about her throwing away our relationship. They told her sister, who Amy was always competitive with and hated, for slut-shaming her constantly. Her parents are pretty well off and gave her sister and my brother-in-law a huge amount of money to get their lives started. They promised the same for Amy, but told her that they're going to just donate it since they don't want to finance her lifestyle. I kind of knew it might happen, but didn't really care. I would have been fine keeping it to myself until I found out she told them that I basically got cold feet and abandoned her. Amy said she always thought I was kind, but it turns out I was a vindictive asshole. So am I the asshole? not the consequences of my actions coming back to bite me in my ass. Amy, you need to grow the fuck up. Real shit. You need to grow the fuck up and stop blaming people for the decisions that you're fucking making. You thought you were going to be able to twist this and blame it on him, thinking he would never fucking find out, just for karma to come back around and him to bump into your parents in a store and them to talk to him. And he awkwardly revealed that, no, I didn't get cold feet and I didn't abandon her. Absolutely not. She went on a trip with her friend and decided to have fun that didn't include me, doing things that should have only included me. That's your bad. That's your fucking bad. Everything that is happening to you is simply your fucking doing. All of the choices that you are making is what's making all of this shit happen to you. You chose to cheat on your boyfriend or your fiance, excuse me, and this is what the fuck happens. You chose to lie to your fucking parents just for them to find out, and now you're not getting this goddamn money. Girl, you don't deserve anything good that's supposed to come to you. You know this, and I know this, because you fuck up everything and still think you're supposed to get shit the way that you want it. Girl, you need to grow the fuck up. OP, you not the asshole, baby. You are not the asshole. You better than me, because I wouldn't have kept it to myself for 6 months. I immediately would have gone around telling people that she's a fucking slore. And she went to fucking Vegas and decided to have fun with 2 different guys, and neither of them were me. I would have told everybody. The hell you trying to save face for her for? Absolutely not. You're not the asshole at all.
I just found out I was the other woman to my cheating husband. I, 37 female, have been with my husband, 40 male, for 13 years and married for 9 years. We have 2 sons, 6 and 8. We have been happily married with the usual ups and downs you would expect with a relationship, but we've been happy. Very happy. My mother-in-law has a terminal disease and is expected to pass very soon, so we've flown over to spend time with her. They are Australian. We live in the US. They used to fly over and stay with us all the time before mother-in-law got sick. I love my mother-in-law and father-in-law. They have been amazing grandparents and very lovely to me. Yesterday, my husband and father-in-law looked after the kids while my mother-in-law and I had a spa day. When we were driving home, she started to get very upset. She ended up getting me to pull over. Then she dropped the news. When I met my husband, he was still in a relationship with his ex. I came to Australia on a working holiday at a snow resort, and my husband was working at the same place. We quickly fell in love. He came to the US for the next season. We did that for many years around the world before settling down. Mother-in-law has just revealed that he had a long-term, 4 years, girlfriend at the time. He was driving back every few weeks to see her, and she apparently visited once. According to mother-in-law, she wasn't a huge fan of the girlfriend, but felt terrible keeping this secret for so long, and wanted to get it off her chest before she passed. Basically, my husband up and left Australia and ditched everything he had and knew, ghosted all of his old childhood friends, girlfriend, etc. His parents moved states not long after, so there were next to no ties to his old life. There were so many lies. He said he used to visit his parents on those trips for the years that we first met. No, he was effing his girlfriend for 4 months, going on dates, hanging out with her family. She visited for days. I don't even know how to feel right now. I feel so betrayed and lost. I can't trust him again. But I don't think I could be a single mom. I feel so lost right now. Edit. Just so people know, we were exclusive, and after the Australian snow season ended, which is from June to October, we both came back to the US for our snow season. We did that, switching between the hemisphere, together for a few years. I haven't spoken with my husband yet, but I'm gonna approach the situation gently.
I live in Georgia by a bunch of trees, and we have spiders. So I was packing my suitcase because we were going to Florida for vacation one summer, and I brought some pants from my closet and I packed them. The next day we left like normal, and when we got to Florida, I unpacked and stuff, but I was lazy so I didn't really finish, and I left the pants in the suitcase. The next day, I put the pants on and my legs start to hurt. I thought it was just like a bug bite, but a week later, there were these 2 black dots everywhere on my leg, and I told my grandma, and she told me that they were spider bites. So we didn't go to my doctor, but we went to one in Florida, and he told us that they were infected. So he did some stuff to make the infection go away, and he gave us medicine that I had to take every day. Then when I got home, we went to my doctor, and he said to do some other stuff, but now I have some really cool scars on my legs.
When I was in 6th grade, I made a terrible mistake. So me and my friends only that time, used to write nonsense behind the doors in the girls' comfort room. You can write whatever you want. So there was this one time that I wrote some bad words about my friends that time to prank them. I included myself so that they wouldn't think that it was me who wrote it. but less savage, I guess. It was more like a compliment. There were 5 of us, and I showed it to 3 of them, and then hours later, when I'm about to tell them that it was a prank, they told my teacher that it was me, and that's where I got lost. I mean, I don't know what to do, so I lied. I was really scared that I cried lying that it wasn't me. A lot of things happened, but all I can remember is that I cried and cried and cried. That was embarrassing. And that is also where our friendship ended. They're mean to me anyway. I felt like a loser when I was with them, but now we're all on good terms. But they still don't know what really happened that time. But now I find it hilarious.